Distance can be a major barrier to accessing quality healthcare on time. That's where Angel Flight East comes in. Welcome to Takeoff Talk with Angel Flight East, a nonprofit dedicated to providing free flights for children and adults who need medical treatment far from home. We don't know how many people forego medical care because they don't have accessible transportation, and that's what this podcast is here to change. Join passionate AFE staff members Jess, Ames, and Maddy, Beck as they share real-life stories from people who have used AFE services to get the care they need when they need it.
Hey, frequent flyers, and welcome back with another episode of Takeoff Talk. You're here with me, Maddy.
And me, Jess.
Yeah, today we have Elizabeth.
Hey.
Sorry. No, you're good. Elizabeth, can you tell our listeners a little bit about your organization?
I'm the CEO and founder of Free Forever Latisha's House Foundation, and we run a national organization that provides safe house and restorative care for victims of sex trafficking. We help women over 18 who've been trafficked, and we also assist them with their children as they go through our program.
That's amazing. So some of the people that you are working with are somewhere else and displaced from sex trafficking, and you're bringing them home. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
We get referrals from all over the country. Right now in the U.S., there are over 500,000 people being trafficked, and there are very few restorative care homes and safe house beds that exist. I mean, really very few. There are 3,000 beds nationwide for 500,000 people. So fewer than 1% of the victims of trafficking ever find safety, which is tragic. They can get incarcerated or they die of drug overdoses or something like that. So we help. We get referrals from courts. We get referrals from non-government agencies. We get referrals and we bring them to our restorative care home. We have two, one in Virginia and one in Florida. And we are looking to expand capacity even by the end of the year because there's such a humongous need. But we get referrals. We interview people every day. We turn away 10 to 30 people a week, which is catastrophic. So,
yeah.
How do people find your organization?
A lot of it is, I think, word of mouth. We've become known. We're 12 years old. We have a gala coming up. We've worked for the space. I've been in it 17 years. We have good results. People get to know us. We're SET certified. We deal with sexual abuse of children, and we deal with adults. And it's a holistic approach, not to overuse that word, but it's mind, body, spirit, dental, food, education, GED classes. So the courts know us, and they like to have people come to our house because it usually has a good outcome. Nothing is 100%, but our success rate in measure of people not going back to jail or being on the street is pretty high. So
what are the criteria to work with Latisha's House?
To work with, you mean to partner with us? Or
yeah. So like, for example, you just said that you have to turn away some people occasionally. What is the criteria?
It's a really hard, number one, we want you to be willing to change your life. People who've been trafficked get into a victim mindset. Well, they are victims of crime. They've been sexually abused. They have mental health issues. They've self-medicated with drugs or they've been forced to take drugs. So when they come to our house, it's like starting over. It's hard work. It doesn't, nobody has a magic wand. If we did, we would have used it a million times over. So a young lady will come to our home and we have program and you're going to get your GED if you don't have it. We're going to help you go to college and trade school. We've paid for grad school. You are going to learn about sobriety. We're going to help you deal with your emotions. You are going to get medical care and dental care, but you're also going to go back and learn to deal with your trauma because there's a lot of complex trauma across the board. So it's hard work. We say to people when we interview them, this is not a place to sleep. We provide that, and it doesn't look like jail or a psych hospital by intent. It looks like a cozy Brady Bunch home. Literally, it was built in 1960, and the light fixtures are 40-some years old, and you think you're at the Brady Bunch house, truly, except for the orange paint. But it's a place to heal and grow. And growing is hard. You have to deal with loss. You have to deal with anger. You have to say, why was I trafficked when I was 12? Why did so-and-so do this or that? And then you have to say, that's not going to define me, but I am going to become what I want to become. And so that's it. We can't negate the past, but not everybody is ready to do that. We've had people come to our house and they think they're ready, but the trauma comes up and it's hard and they just can't cope with it at the moment. And we understand that. But, it's an old cliche. Sometimes people have to hit rock bottom.
Yeah, I
Oftentimes,
can't imagine what these people had to go through and the trauma that they have endured, and just having the heart and the determination to want to change their life and kind of get past what they've been through. Do you have any success stories that you'd like to share?
we do. And how you help people get to see that. Our interview question, the last one, is when you were a little girl before you were sexually assaulted, raped, or whatever, we say, what did you want to be when you grew up? And so in psychology, we talk about trauma as a T, it's minus T and plus T. Before the trauma happened, what were you dreaming about? What were you thinking about when you were fantasizing about what you want to be when you grew up? What it is? And you connect people to those hopeful dreams that they had. And it's never being trafficked. And it's never been what they've been involved in. So we say that's possible. That's kind of how you connect them to something positive. And then you deal with the trauma and you help them start to achieve new things. You have to build it basically on one thing at a time. When you come to our house, if you've been in a hotel, you may never have learned to cook. We had a girl who didn't know how to boil an egg, literally. I mean, all they ate is ramen noodles in a hotel room. And so we have cooking classes and we do family dinners. And when you learn to cook a meal for the first time and you present it, it's amazing. And you have done it. You've proven yourself that you can do that. You're not a stupid, can I see? Nobody's calling you a stupid bitch and a whore, whatever. You are accomplishing something. We have literacy for life that comes. And when you're sitting there and you are 32 years old and you never got to learn your multiplication tables and you learn them and then you take your GED test in math and you pass it, we celebrate. I mean, we do s'mores out in the backyard and buy coffee at the Wawa and everybody's having a great time. You learn. And as you accomplish things, you're redefining who you are. So that's really what it is. It takes about 2.5 years to 5 years to heal from trauma. And quite honestly, psychological trauma scars people, but you can heal in spite of it. So we pay for people to go to culinary school. We've had people become CNAs. We have a young lady graduating from college with her master's in psychology. We've loved her for 12 years. We went to 3 college graduations last year, and I represented every parent they never had. Oh, it's hard. You sit there and you wish their mothers were there cheering them on. Instead, it's me, because they don't have moms. Most of our survivors, their families traffic them and have exploited them. So, but
That's incredible, though. I honestly don't know how you do it every day. And I just think it's so inspirational. And you just providing that support system for people. I don't even have the words to say how important it is.
Well, when we see a girl graduate, and we one of my favorite, I mean, I don't know, we have sad stories, but we have happy ones. We had a young lady from South Carolina, and she said, Miss Liz, how's Miss Liz? And, you got to draw it out there. And she said she came to our house and she was dyslexic, and her mother was a drug addict, and she sold her daughter when she was 12 for drugs. But you love your mom even when she does horrible things, right? Children love their parents even when they're bad. And so she said, all I'm good for is sex work. I can't do anything. She had trouble with her GED, failed the ASVAB test multiple times. But we had a volunteer who was teaching everybody how to cook. And she goes, sweetheart, you're really good at this. Instinctively, she had this intelligence. She could make sauces that are great. Nobody else wanted to cook. They just wanted her to cook because her meals were the best. And so we said, have you ever thought about culinary school? And now we have a partnership with a local culinary school. Before we didn't, but she applied to culinary school and she got in. And
That's awesome.
And she was like, when she graduated from culinary school, we went, and her mother didn't come. because she was still using drugs. And her brother said she shamed the family. And so she wasn't going to walk and get her chef coat and her, I forgot what the chef hat is called. Anyway, we went to Charlotte and she walked and they said, "Who are they?" And she said, "My family," which was an honor. And then he said,
Oh, I just got goosebumps.
He said, "What can I say about Nancy?" Not a real name. He said, "She's like a still river that runs deep. Give her a problem in the kitchen and she finds a way to solve it." And I was just like, "Huh." So honestly, that's success. And my board, we bought her chef knives. I mean, like her whole set of chef knives to do. And she goes, "Miss Leah's, I'm going to come back and work for you and I'm going to cook for the ladies." I said, "No." I said, "We love you." I said, "One, I can't pay you what you're worth." And number two, I said, "Go live your best life." But so the only thing that she ever cooked that was bad was chitlins. And, pig's feet and chitlins, and people in the South love that. Collard greens I can handle, but chitlins make the house stink. It's a terrible smell. It's an acquired taste. It's like stinky French cheese. Apparently, it tastes really good, but it smells really bad. Apparently, that's what it's like.
So how did you guys hear about Angel Flight East to begin with?
Heidi, who's our director of program, who's with Ladies Today, doing other things, she heard about it and contacted you all. And we were so delighted because we have another safe house in Orlando. And we also take people to medical care in Orlando when we can't get it in Virginia. And I mean, you have blessed ladies at our house. I mean, it was amazing. I saw pictures of one young lady standing there and she said, "I was in the plane all by myself." And she took pictures of the seat and out the window. And she's like, "They did that for me. They did that for me." And I'm thinking, well, of course they did. Your life is valuable. I mean, it was such a blessing. And she said, "I never knew anybody cared that much." So you all have been amazing. I mean, but it meant, she said, "I was a VIP. They carried my bag on the plane." I mean, it's just like, and she'd never flown before either. So you spoiled her for commercial flight, just saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. So when we originally got the flight request from Heidi, obviously we were like, we're 100% all in, anything we can do to support the work that your organization is doing. And we put the flight request out and just said it is a bit of a sensitive topic. So we just wanted our pilots to know what her situation was. And I remember the pilot called the next day and was like, "You would have never known that she's been through such a terrible time because she had such an incredibly positive outlook on life." He's like, "If you guys didn't tell me what the reason for the flight was, I would have never known." And I was like, that is just incredible. And it makes us rethink like, oh, we think we had a bad day because our hair doesn't look good. And it's like, there's just so many other people in the world that are going through such traumatic journeys that you would just never know about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I love that particular young lady. And she had a crisis a couple years ago. She was going to school and then she had a psychotic break and had to start over because the trauma just hit. It comes in waves sometimes. And plus, when people are healing, you're numb when you're in it. You disassociate and you turn your mind off so you can deal with all. Otherwise, you can die from trauma. So literally, you can die of it. And so you just disassociate. So your body is experiencing something and you take your mind somewhere else. But sometimes when you settle at our house and their activities and you see what other people's quote normal lives look like, it's very hard because you grieve the loss of all the things you never had. You grieve the loss of your innocence. You grieve the loss of school. You grieve the loss of friends. And usually the biggest grief is losing parents. Almost 100% of our women were sexually abused as children before the age of 7. It's the number one predicator for being trafficked. And number 2, we've discovered in 12 years, most people who traffic their children in our experience anyway, are usually family members or friends. It's not the stranger putting a kid in the back of a van. I mean, I know that happens. That's an outlier for us. It's usually a mom or a dad or a grandfather or an uncle or somebody. And
I just
oftentimes
can't even imagine being betrayed like that and then just having the courage to trust people again.
that takes
Exactly.
a long time. I mean, we do a training called the heart model, which makes a lot of sense. But the first thing is building rapport and trust. So I say to my staff, if you say you're going to do it, your word is your bond. And if something gets in the way, because there's always something that gets in the way, then explain it and say, I haven't forgotten, I'm still doing it. And as we do that, and we say, we told you we would work on this, allow us, it takes time. If there's court stuff, it always takes time. Medical stuff takes time. But as we prove that we keep our word and we're not breaking our promises, then people begin to trust. And it's really lovely when someone will look you in the eyes and say, I believe you're telling me the truth. I trust you. And that's a big part of healing.
I love that. So, how can our listeners support the work that you are doing?
Oh, wow. Lots of ways. One, we do trauma training. If the listeners are there, we are doing training at Riverside Hospital in Virginia, but I'm a traumatologist. I will go anywhere. I can do a full day of training for teachers, librarians, medical professionals. We say this is what trafficking looks like. These are the identifiers, and this is what you can do because number one, we do that. We don't charge for that because we believe an informed public can change lives. And women who are trafficked as children and as adults, they are not discovered easily. They've all been to a doctor, they've often been in school, and they were not identified as being victims of sexual abuse and trafficking. So it's really important because once you know what you're looking at, then you can see it. If you're checking into a hotel and you've been to Florida, and there's an older gentleman with a girl that doesn't look like him and she has no bag and it's 2:00 in the morning and she looks like they're not related and she looks scared or something. You want to be able to know. If you are working in an ED department as a PA or nurse practitioner or nurse, and you have someone come in and there's a guy standing in the room with her and answering questions for her, or if you're at the health department and they won't let you talk to the patient by themselves, it's a red flag. And so if you identify it, so we have slides of tattoos. 75 to 80% of people who are trafficked are branded. And so we have the gang tattoos available to show because gangs brand the girls that they sell and boys that they sell too. So we have those identifiers. So if you're in an emergency room and somebody comes in, they're bruised all over, and there's a man saying, oh, she was hit by a car. Well, you kick the man down the hall and then you look. And if you see a tattoo, say for MS-13 or Latin Kings or whatever, that's usually a sign that somebody's being trafficked. And if somebody's bruised all over, you can ask them, are they in harm's way? But if there's somebody cloying, man or woman, that won't leave the person alone, it's a sign. Because every woman in our house went to a doctor. They had children, they had abortions, they had illnesses, they had hep C. They've been to emergency rooms and they were never identified. Not because people didn't care, but because people didn't know what they were looking at. And so we do the training. That's number one. We have slides that we can share if we can't go someplace and do it. The other thing is go to freeforever.org because that's easier to remember to spell than Latisha's house because there are lots of ways to spell Latisha. And you can see how to get involved. We have a big dream about opening other restorative care houses. There's so few beds. Again, 3,000 in the country for 500,000 people. 1,600 of those are for adults. And that means most people who are trafficked in this country today disappear, die of fentanyl poisoning, or they're incarcerated. And the cycle continues. So, freeforever.org, you'll see what the needs are. And if you have a vision and desire to do something like this in your state, our model is very scalable, and we will very gladly come and help you get it started. We'd love to do that.
My heart is so like full hearing this and so sad knowing that there are so many people
Aw.
still going through this. Like, it's wild. How many, like, we need like 75 more Letitia's houses.
we could, in Virginia alone, I mean, Virginia is 6 right now in the nation. Florida's number 2. It doesn't matter. If we're turning 10 to 30 people a week away, I mean, I got a call last night from someone in victim witness, and they said, "Do you have a bed?" And I said, "No." And she went, "Shit." I wish she had. I said, "We're working on it as soon as we can." And we are. We have a gala coming up this Saturday. And
Oh, wow.
I mean, yeah, and we are raising money to buy a property that will allow us to do housing for moms and children called Hope Village in honor of a young lady who died 6 years ago. And then we're going to have a second restorative care home. And then eventually we want to do a foster care home called the Storybook House, where when we go to court, the judge says, I'm going to try to sound like a nice judge. The judge says, "I'm going to send your kids to foster care if you don't get your life together. I'm going to sever your rights in 3 months, 12 months, whatever." We're going to say, "Your Honor, she's going to come to our restorative care home and she's going to be there 18 months and heal and get medical care, comprehensive counseling, trade school education, whatever. And in the meantime, we have another facility at a different place with certified foster parents that are loving and kind, and those children are going to get the services they need. And then when they're healing, we're going to bring them together at Hope Village, where mom will live with their children in a supportive environment. And that's 2 to 3 years while she continues to heal and they continue to establish their family." That's the dream. It's called the Freedom Project. It's scalable. Restorative care home is scalable. The Hope Village is scalable. I mean, we've got it down to nuts and bolts and the cost of putting in those houses. So that's our big dream. But every state needs it. We get referrals from people saying, "I have a woman with 5 children and she's been trafficked. I have a woman with 3 children and she has into the end of December or they're going to sever her rights." True story, real story. The young lady who inspired all of it, by the way, was LaShonda, and shout out for her. She's in heaven now. LaShonda was trafficked from Arizona to Virginia. She was arrested in Virginia, one of our big cities, and bonded to us. She was charged with 5 felonies because her trafficker, number one, her mother, she was trafficked at 12. Her stepdad raped her. She had a child. It is super common for 12-year-olds to have kids and nobody reports it. Mistake number 1. Number 2, her mother complained about her. So they sent her she went to juvenile detention and then foster care. She met her trafficker in foster care. He moved her to Virginia and she had a child when she was 12. And then she had 4 more children with the trafficker. The trafficker was arrested. That's fine. He got a lot of years, but they charged her with 5 felonies. Child endangerment and child abandonment, because her children were in a hotel room unsupervised. She was sentenced to our house and she came. She got sober. She got her life right. She discovered God, which is always helpful. She went to culinary school because you can be a felon and go to culinary school. She got a job at a really good restaurant. And the court said, number 1, was she healed enough? No. And they said, she has to graduate by this day or we're putting her in jail for 25 years. And so we said, okay. So because she had charges. Because if the trafficker is arrested, they will often charge the victim as well. If they
That is just a story of how broken our system is.
Anyway,
to put it lightly.
But we graduated her from the program and they said she had 5 children. So they said she has to get a 3-bedroom house. Now she's a felon, right? Her charges are not expunged, vacated or expunged. She has a restaurant job. She's making $22 an hour, which is the most. That's brilliant. We bought her a car, but she could not find housing. Her credit score wasn't good enough. It was 500. And she hadn't been in her job long enough, obviously. And she has a felony conviction. So when they run rental checks, they look for all of those things. So she ended up going to another city in Virginia and she rented from someone who was a drug dealer. 2 weeks later, I got a phone call and they said she didn't show up to work today. We called the local police department to do a wellness check and she had died of fentanyl poisoning. And the man who gave it to her was sitting there eating McDonald's. They didn't charge him because they said she was a drug addict, a prostitute, and a felon. But we did her funeral and her culinary school class came to the funeral and her 12-year-old daughter was there. And we had The only people who ever had pictures of her life were us. This is the reality, though. Nobody'd ever cared about it. That's the reality. We played video of her chopping onions and laughing, and then she had written about her life and her life goals. So 2 things. One, we told her daughter, 12-year-old daughter, looked just like her. I said, you do well in school, we'll pay for college for you. And number 2, I said, we are going to do LaShonda's Village. I said to her, I looked at her laying there in the coffin. I said, by the grace of God, we're going to keep this from happening again to the best of our ability. So that was 5 years ago. So our Freedom Project, we're going to have her story inside of each house. And her legacy is that moms who've been trafficked will have their kids. And so she's inspired us. Sorry.
Oh,
That no, it's okay. We
Yeah.
do not like sweaty eyes in the afternoon. So
We don't like sweaty eyes anytime, but I think this podcast is like, honestly, I think at this point we've made it so we just cry at least once a week.
yeah, we've cried enough this week. We don't need any more tears.
That's the thing. It's her life is not in vain. And I mean, I think of her every day. When we get a call from a mom, we think of her. So the urgency is great, and it's why we do what we do. And we have a mom with us now, by the way, who was rescued, and she was running for her life, and we have one apartment, and she's living there with her 4-year-old daughter. And when she came, her daughter was sucking on a bottle, and she's on the spectrum, wearing a diaper. 9 weeks, she's gone from wearing a diaper to being potty trained. She can read, and she's drinking out of a cup. And I took them to church, and she went to Sunday school, and she hadn't been around children at all because mom's been trafficked. And they said she was exemplary when we picked her up. And I went, exemplary? My 4-year-olds were never exemplary. I mean, my gosh, I was like, what kind of child is that? She was great during Sunday school, but she sings and she dances and she skips and she's riding a tricycle. And in 9 weeks, you go, that's what a healing environment does. But the other thing we've done is mom has been, taken to the hospital. We've been getting her care. It's intense. If she were any other place, they'd be separated. So it provides a chance for mom to heal. Because if you've been trafficked at 15 and you're 32, you have a lot of healing to do. So it's why it's so important. But I told her, I said, LaShonda paved the way for you. So.
Well, you are incredible. All the people you are assisting are lucky to have you. I don't know if we'll ever be able to top this podcast interview with a partner organization. And I'm just so happy you were able to share what your organization does so more people know about it, because they should.
Well, look us up online and let us know what we can do to help you. And if you would do me one other thing, would you send me your logo? Because we will feature you at our gala and do a shout out for you.
Thank you.
Are you all local, by the way?
I wish.
I know.
Because honestly, at this point, I'm like, can I have a job? I want to I want to get involved. I want to do more. I want to help too.
Well, I'd love if you could get to the gala. I will certainly toss that out there.
Oh man, we may have to take a road trip, Jess.
I think
we do love a good road trip, especially to Virginia. Those are our people.
Yeah. Well, let me know, because I'd love to honor you at it. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you so much again. You are incredible, and I know your gala will be super successful. And I don't know how you're here right now. You probably have a bajillion things to do.
Seriously.
Well, this is important, and we appreciate you so much. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
In-person road trip.
Yeah. Thank you again. Have a great day.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.
That's it for today's episode of Take Off Talk with Angel Flight East. If you want to learn more about our services, please visit our website at www.angelflighteast.org or call our office at 215-358-1900. Join us in our mission. If you're a healthcare worker or a patient in need of air travel and flight services, AFE is here for you. Subscribe to the show so you can hear more stories. Join us again next week right here on Take Off Talk.